Why is it when Saturn returns or shows up in your astrology chart, it marked a very hard and tough time in your life? In this episode, we are going to unpeel often the misunderstood planet Saturn, and the good news is that it rains diamonds in Saturn. Hi, this is Nisa with VNS Mystery School, and you're watching Cosmic Little Lessons, the place to be every Wednesday to bridge the gap between you and the language of the universe. In this episode, we are going to talk about the planet Saturn. Now, here you have to understand, back in the day, before the age of telescope, the most outer realm, the limits of what we can see within the sky was Saturn. So here also from the sun toward the outer realm, you have Mercury, which is a faster moving planet, and then Venus and Mars. Then as we move to Jupiter, we're talking about once every year in one sign. And now we're talking about Saturn. And here the cycle of Saturn, the planet Saturn, it takes about 28 to 29 and a half years from one point to the other. And this is why they call it Saturn Return, pretty much the period of late 20s to early 30s. This is known, hashtag Saturn Return, as one of the hardest period in your life. Now, as a planet itself, the planet Saturn here talks about limitations, the most outer realm. In our body, here Saturn talks about our skin, which is the most outer limit of our being. But Saturn also in our body talks about the skin and the bones and teeth, hard stuff. And here, when we talked about in previous episode about Jupiter, I always see Jupiter and Saturn here as a pairing. And my favorite metaphor between the two archetypes, it is the iron fist is Saturn, while Jupiter here is the velvet gloves. Here we have Jupiter, which is what we talked about, the planet of expansion. And you expand with goals and hopes and dreams and imaginations. Now here when we're talking about the polar opposite of expansion is contraction, here we're talking about the planet Saturn. Now the reason why Saturn contracts is the axis of time and space. In mythology, Saturn have always been known as Cronus, father of time, but also Saturn here is known as the feminine underworld, and that is quite feminine as well. So for me, Saturn is a feminine planet, also is father of time. And in the glyph, here we have the axis of time and space, the cross, pretty much pushing down the moon, the most sensitive part of yourself. And I always say that Saturn, it is the cross that we have to bear. Saturn here talks about the reality of life on Earth. There's a time limit, Saturnian concept. There is limited resources. Again, Saturn reality. And so here when we're talking about the Jupiter and Saturn as the authorships of our lives, Jupiter here pulls the idea while Saturn asks what is necessary to implement that idea into reality. Now, of course, necessity and reality on Earth with all of its limitation is not everyone's cups of tea. Nobody's really. And this is why Saturn in etymology, this is also the Saturn. It's painful, it is what brings difficulties and hardships. But here, what Saturn really wants from us is to make sure that everything is solid with foundation, structures, and everything else that you will need in the future. So it's very hard to sell Saturn as, as something good. But one of the things that I really learned, I don't know if you've known this, the story of the Three Little Pigs. It's an older Disney animations, and I love animating the reality of Saturn here with the Three Little Pigs. Of course, you have three little pigs, and eventually they will all be chased and be hounded down by the big bad wolf, which is the reality of life. And of course, you have the first pig, who is probably Marcy, who's like starting to build with speed and just want to get it done so that they can move on and play. And then you have the second pig, which is I think, you know, from the house of hay, we've moved on a little bit to house of sticks. And here with the second pig, it takes a little longer, but it's not as thorough as the third pig. So the third pig, of course, in the story here, was being laughed at. This is the workaholic, but not also workaholic, someone who's real about the reality of the big bad wolf and the reality of life. What is necessary? There's limited time, limited resources, limited energy, and limited emotional capacity. Now, what the third pig was doing in the story, despite of the mockery of the first two pigs, the third pig just kept working and laying that foundation, wait for the cement to dry, and really care about building things that last with all of its necessity within. So I've been through this. I've been through my Saturn return, and Saturn return is a cycle of 28. So if you live until your 60s, you're gonna have Saturn return twice. Oh my God, if you experience third Saturn return, that's a subject I haven't been an expert in, so I can't really speak of that. But here, Saturn is the adult, the architect of your life, the one that makes all the imaginations real. This is the manifestation. So between, you know, because here you're talking something that is earthy, something that is bringing it down to this, you know, consensus reality. Saturn rules, you know, consensus reality. And Saturn here rules two signs, Capricorn and Aquarius. The difference between the two here, Capricorn talks about the structures and boundaries and all about the box, while Aquarius, it's a reaction to Capricorn, is who thinks outside of the box, who is trying to destroy the box. And both of them are Saturnian in quality though. So I hope you're enjoying this planet series. I am coming up with my course, 7 Avatars of Your Psyche, where I have this 7 avatars, 7 functions within us that we can master so we can master our lives. I thank you so much for watching, sharing everything, and I will see you next week with a fresh new series in Cosmic Little Lessons. Thank you so much for watching again. I'll see you soon.